everyone, and welcome back to Lycan Hood Reads. My change of scenery is because I'm pet sitting for my parents. If you see any dogs or cats or hear any loud noises, or if perhaps the camera gets tipped over or moves around, that is because there are two very large dogs near me. And I apologize in advance. Anyway, I'm coming at you guys with two book reviews today. I wanted to talk about a couple of the short novels that I read in January of 2023. They're both queer, they're both fantasy, and I just thought that they kind of paired well together, so I was going to go ahead and do a review video for you. So the first book I want to talk about is called The Bruising of Qilwa, and that is by Naseem Jamnia. This was a really cute little, I don't know if it's a short novel or if it's a novella, but it's fairly short, and I read it on audiobook over on Scribd. So, The Bruising of Qilwa is a queer normative debut Persian-inspired fantasy. It's a sort of refugee story about this non-binary physician, healer type character. They actually possess magical powers. I'm going to call it blood magical powers that aid them in their ability to heal. And apparently these sort of abilities are common and revered in the culture that they come from. But in this place that they've moved to, because it's a refugee story, they've moved to an empire or a country that is actually outlawed this practice of blood magic, even when it's being used in a way that is healing and, you know, kind of community service. So the main character is non-binary. And it's about them and their family sort of struggling in this new country that doesn't treat them very well, treats them as second-class citizens, and where they have to hide this incredible gift that back in their home country that has been sort of colonized, it would make them revered and would make them, sort of a hero in their community. But that is not the case here. They have to hide it, but still manage to do their job and be a good doctor, be a good physician, even in the face of that. Guys, what are we doing with all the loving and the rubbing? It's supposed to be only about 175 pages. So adjusting to their new environment and their new country and trying to hide their abilities, trying to feed their family, and just kind of stay out of trouble and keep their head down. Their community is being ravaged by a new and mysterious blood disorder. It's that the main character calls the bruising, and they sort of dedicate themselves to investigating this this new illness and trying to find out what's causing it, where it's coming from, and what they can do to help their community survive it. Also, what's happening at the time is a lot of family sort of stuff, family drama. Their younger sibling. So, like I said, it's queer normative, and the main character is non-binary. So what's going on is that apparently in their culture, you kind of decide your gender at a certain age. Like when you're going through puberty, you can decide, male, female, masculine, feminine, or non-binary. And I believe their younger sibling is trans, and so they're going through puberty and they're deciding female, or they're discovering female. And so, because there is magic in this world, part of their culture, part of this blood magic that the main character can practice is helping these individuals with body dysphoria, and kind of helping them transition in a magical medical way. So they are helping them go through a series of spells that will align their body with their gender. So that's sort of cool. It definitely has some really cool trans commentary and genderqueer commentary in it. I think it's really cool to examine that from a cultural perspective, from a culture where these sorts of things are normal and where it's just a part of growing up, is sort of discovering who you are. And I really enjoyed that aspect of it. I will say that this is a very medical heavy little novella. The main character is a doctor. They do a lot of doctoring, and there are some gross bits, involved in that. I remember recently, last year I read Escaping Exodus, and it just talked about a lot of really gross stuff, and this sort of reminded me of that. I'm not super squeamish, but I definitely notice it when you're talking about pus and oozing and things like that. So if you're going to be super sensitive to that sort of medical content and just really descriptive medical and bodily function stuff, then be aware of that, because that's definitely happening in this. It was a very interesting read. It was one of the first books I read. I read it on audiobook. The audiobook is excellently done. I don't remember how long it was, but like I said, the novella is supposed to only be about 175 pages, so not very long at all. I think that I think that book could be the beginning of a really, like, kind of the introduction to a bigger series, possibly. And I think it would work really well for fans of A Master of Jinn by P. Djeli Clark. Don't bite me about it, that's her. That series, the first novel is, of course, A Master of Jinn, but it is actually started with A Dead Jinn in Cairo, which is a little novella. If you enjoyed any of that sort of stuff, this has a very similar vibe to it, just sort of in tone, and a lot of what's happening with the magic kind of reminds me of that, and of course geographically, they're coming from sort of similar regions, and I think that if you enjoyed what was going on in A Master of Jinn, even though that was more of an alternate history, this it strikes a similar tone, and it definitely reminded me of that while I was reading it. So this might be a good, if you like that, try this sort of situation. The next book I would like to talk about is called The Dawnhounds, and I believe that's the first in a series called Against the Quiet. This may have been originally an indie book or self-published, because I can see that not only has the series name changed, but the cover has also changed. This had an older cover that I had seen before, but when I read it on Scribd this month, it has a brand new, very different cover. So this may have been originally an indie book or self-published, but now it has maybe been picked up by a more traditional publisher, or maybe it just got kind of a makeover. Either way, The Dawnhounds is, I believe it's by a New Zealand author. They have this cute little introduction at the beginning where they're like, I'm going to say some weird stuff, some New Zealand idioms and sort of slang, so you're just going to have to deal with that, and I definitely dealt with it. I want to start by saying that I don't usually have a problem, like, following along with fantasy or sci-fi books in audio. I read a lot of fantasy and sci-fi books on audiobook, so that's not usually an issue that I have, but this one definitely fell a little flat for me, and I hate to say that. It's not the narrator's fault. I think that the narrator did a really great job with her tone and, like, with the New Zealand, sound way of it and everything. I don't think it was her fault, but I did have a difficult time just absorbing this book at all. I found it very difficult to follow in terms of plot and sort of what was happening. It has a lot of trippy moments where it's like visions or mind reading or sort of mind melding, or like you'll see things, the characters will be seeing things that haven't happened yet or happened in the past, like memory flashes. I don't know. There was a lot happening that there were a lot of moments where I'm just like, what's going on? Or who is that person? I think it had more to do so with the writing style and the prose. Just the way that the author chose to write the narrative voice was a little honky for me. And because of that, I can't really give this a stellar review. I struggled to finish it, honestly, just because I was so disconnected and I had such a difficult time understanding what was going on. It definitely had some cool elements. It's a sort of political fantasy. It is queer. The main character is bisexual, living in this society that is homophobic. They frown on any sort of sexuality. The summary to this book compares it to The Handmaid's Tale, and I think that's a little bit of a heavy comparison. It is kind of like The Handmaid's Tale in the sense that there are very strict societal rules about like gender roles and of course about sexuality. However, it's not as dystopian as the Handmaid's Tale, and I would say that it's not as difficult to consume as the Handmaid's Tale is. However, the main character is a cop in this city, and she's down on her luck. She got caught doing some gay stuff. I think she was caught in a gay bar that was like raided. And because of that, they demoted her and put her like on the night shift, and they assigned, some lieutenant to keep an eye on her and set her straight, literally and figuratively. So she's kind of in the middle of just laying low. She was like a street rat as a kid, an orphan, and she feels that being a cop is kind of rising above her station, and she wants to be a hero. She has very noble intentions, but now she's kind of at the bottom of the barrel as far as cops go. Now, and she's also a girl, so that's not really great for her. But she gets caught up in some stuff that she shouldn't, and she actually ends up getting killed very close to the beginning of the novel. That's the inciting incident, is that she dies, but not for good. When she is resurrected, she has these very strange sort of abilities and discovers some things about herself, and joins up with this rebellious pirate group of misfits that share these abilities. Like I said, I had a difficult time absorbing the plot of this book and exactly like following what was happening. Because of that, I don't feel like I can tell you guys much more than that. I just know that she died, she came back to life. When she came back to life, she has some magical powers, and she joins up with this crew of misfit, rebellious pirates that are trying to stop a big bad who wants to destroy the city or the nation or something. It is sapphic. The main character is bi, and there's a sapphic kind of romantic B-plot going on. I would say this is worth checking out if you're looking for a sort of short queer fantasy. If you're looking for something that's about like revolution. Sorry, it's the dogs. If you're looking for something about revolution, if you're interested in non-US or non-UK fiction, like I said, this is New Zealand, and I do love the tone of it. In terms of like it being from New Zealand, I enjoyed the narration, but I did not enjoy the writing style, and I can't tell you much about if I enjoyed the plot or not, because I really just had a hard time following the events that were happening. You can describe this book as both science fiction and sort of urban fantasy. I also got a little bit of steampunky vibes from it, because, I mean, it felt kind of like a fantasy novel to me, like the world that they were in, but I wasn't really getting a clear picture of it. They have guns and stuff, but maybe not cars, or like not, I'm not sure. I'm gonna put it in urban fantasy as the category. It's a weird little book. You'll have to try it and decide for yourself how you feel. I ended up not really enjoying it. I don't think I'll be continuing with the series, but I did want to go ahead and let you guys know about it because it fit in pretty well with the Bruising of Qilwa. Alright, that's going to be it for this review. Thank you so much for joining me. I was happy to keep it short and smooth. I gotta pay these dogs some attention, obviously. So I'll be seeing you guys next time.